would like, if I may, to take you on a strange journey.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Real Estate Realities with the Rebel Broker. My name's Robert Whitelaw, and I am the Rebel Broker. Licensed real estate broker in the state of California, member of the National Association of Realtors. But please, don't hold that against me. Welcome to it, folks. Today is Wednesday, October 26th, 2016. Just a mere 5 days away from good old Halloween. I hope everyone has some awesome plans. It's such a great time for the kiddies and the grown-ups. It's become much more of a grown-up holiday as well over the years. In the past, I've always done a Halloween-themed show, like a real estate horror stories kind of thing. But we're creeping up on, I still can't believe that we're creeping up on this, but we're creeping up on the 10-year anniversary of the show. And I'm just not sure I have any more horror stories. So I guess what I'll do, late to the game, with only 5 days left, I'd love to hear, and I'm talking about real horror stories. If you want to go back and listen to some past shows, whether it's on Blog Talk Radio or last October's show, I'm pretty sure I did one last October, where just some genuine, freaky, weird, Halloween-y kind of stuff, if you feel like checking that out. I'm not sure what we'll do for this Halloween show. Maybe I'll come up, maybe at the last minute I'll throw it in and decide to crank things up a notch for Halloween. But in the spirit of Halloween, and granted, this may not be a primary motivator for investors who are looking for the perfect real estate investment. It may not be the number one reason to purchase in a certain neighborhood, but I thought it might be fun to take a look at the best neighborhoods for trick-or-treating according to the good folks over at HomeUnion. So we're going to run down the list. There are some entire states that are suspiciously missing from this list. And once we've gone through this list, we're going to analyze it, because I'm a numbers guy. We're going to look at it from the standpoint of, we'll go by what they're going through, but we'll also check it out in accordance with its distance to the closest cemetery, based, I guess, on the assumption that on some level that enhances the Halloween experience. So let's go ahead and jump in. We're going to start at the bottom of our top 20 list. And I promise you, because so many areas are not represented here, I mean, I can't imagine some of you jumping in a car. Let me see if I can. What state is the most alone? Maybe Idaho. Just there's nowhere for you to go if you're in southeastern Idaho. You'd either have to go up to Seattle, Washington, or to Cherry Creek in Denver, Colorado. So what we're going to do is, once we've gone through this list, because if you're lucky enough to live in one of these communities, it's going to be a good haul for you this Monday. If not, I want to try to extrapolate some wisdom from this so that you locally, you can have some fun with it, right? You've got your kids, you want to have some fun, or maybe you're just a kid at heart. You're going to go ahead and put on that Darth Vader costume, and you're going to go out and get yourself the biggest pillowcase full of candy you possibly can. And I want to help you make that happen. We're all about making dreams come true here. It's all about reaching your goals. So let's see what we can do. So the first city on our list is Boston, but of course we're not just going to leave you with the city. We're going to give you the neighborhood name as well. It is West Cambridge in Boston. According to this, it is located, the safety percentile is in the 93rd, so really perfect for your kids to get out there and be able to feel confident that they're going to have not only a good time, but a safe time. Houses per square mile in West Cambridge, 3,194. So plenty of targets of opportunity for all the kiddies. Plus, you're only a little bit over a half a mile away from the closest cemetery. Next on our list, well, there's some other data we're going to share here in a minute that I actually think a more general conclusion can be drawn. But let's go ahead and hit these first. Before we move on, maybe it makes sense to share what they believe are the best. What makes a great neighborhood for trick-or-treating. The company analyzed the largest metros in the United States based on median home prices, neighborhood density, the safety of the area, and the proximity to the nearest cemetery to create the comprehensive list. Quote, there are plenty of websites that select the top metros for trick-or-treating, which is a great place for families to start, says Steve Hovland, director of the research of this research for HomeUnion. But cities and metros are diverse, with many distinct and varied neighborhoods. Some parts of metros have safety issues or have homes that are too far apart for children to trick or treat. So we've eliminated those areas to compile a true neighborhood level list. To add an element of spookiness to our list, we've even factored in how close the nearest cemetery is to each neighborhood. So that's how they went. And I got to tell you, I don't know about you, but as over the years growing up and living in different areas, I've come across some neighborhoods that were just really into Halloween. When I was a little guy in South San Jose, we actually we were one of those streets where we'd actually close off the streets. We do that for the 4th of July and for Halloween. So no one was driving in or out of the neighborhood while trick-or-treating was actually going on. There's a great neighborhood that does that in Campbell that I took my kids to when I was a kid. There are some outstanding and amazing over-the-top Halloween neighborhoods scattered throughout Silicon Valley. I don't know if I'm talking to folks who are local, and I happen to know I've got at least 2 listeners in Morgan Hill because 2 of them have reached out to me recently. I don't know of a really outstanding one other than there's a community that's named after wines. That's a big help. Right off of Dunn, just across the street from Nordstrom Elementary School, and then up Dunn Avenue towards Hill, another block. Those guys always go out. There's always a house with a haunted house there to entertain everybody, and the hall is usually really good. But there are a few epic places to trick or treat. And again, one of them is in Campbell, and just drive into these areas and look for places where they've blocked off the streets, and you can really see the folks that are dedicated to helping the kids have a good time. And just because, I consider it one of my major achievements. Obviously this is going back a few years, but the year before so it would be 2004, I actually won the chili cook-off for Halloween. So that, what was my secret? Tequila, and lots of it in the chili. There you go. I'm here to help, no matter what your problems might be. All right, so next on our list is Seattle. The neighborhood is Capitol Hill with zip code 98122. They've got an 85% safety rating, they're in the 85th safety percentile. But man, what a whopper of houses per square mile with 11,221 homes per square mile. You're going to be able to crank out an awful lot of homes per hour with that kind of density. And then the distance to the nearest cemetery is 0.87 miles. This is one I've actually heard of. I know folks from when I went to college here in the Bay Area, so even way back in the 80s, but I've also heard from kids that are maybe just one notch above thinking about maybe they should stop trick-or-treating who've gone up here. Pacific Heights in San Francisco, California, with a 68% safety percentile rating, but they've got 17,445 houses per square mile, 1.31 miles to the nearest cemetery. But I'll tell you, biggest hauls ever that I've heard of, and some of the ones I've seen where kids come back from driving up to San Francisco just to go to this neighborhood to trick-or-treat, coming back with several pillowcases full of candy. And we're talking hardcore stuff here. We're talking full size, not those little fun size, goofy bite size bars. We're talking the giganto bars and some pretty awesome stuff. There were even some folks that were giving out the equivalent of gift bags. So in other words, you walked up and you held out your bag to carry the stuff, and instead of handing you a candy bar, they actually had little bags that are tied up with a little ribbon, and sometimes it's got a little toy inside and some candy and all kinds of stuff. Pretty awesome. Plus, there's almost always some amazing Halloween displays in Pacific Heights. Now, granted, it's probably been about it's been a long time since I was up to Pacific Heights for Halloween, but the last time I was there was in the early 90s, and it was freaking epic. Next, the Ancala neighborhood in Phoenix, Arizona, zip code 85259, 57th percentile in terms of safety rating, so not so good. That's actually the second lowest on our list, with 369 homes per square mile. And this neighborhood is 3.19 miles away from the nearest cemetery. Next on our list, Dallas, zip code 75225, University Heights, with an 80% safety percentile in terms of just running out there and realizing you're going to have a safe time as well as a fun time. The houses per square mile, 1,781. So it doesn't come anywhere near San Francisco with that 17,000, but still a really good density. 1.05 miles to the nearest cemetery for those kids who want to wrap up their Halloween experience with some spooky stories near the cemetery. Next on our list is Chicago. This is interesting. 60564 is the zip code. The White Eagle Club. It's what's listed here as the neighborhood. A 100% safety rating. The next one's the same. Both cities that surprise me in terms of safety percentile, just because of the reputations of the cities. 850 homes per square mile in White Eagle Club, and 2.01 miles to the nearest cemetery. Next on our list, Miami. 33149 is the zip code. Village of Key Biscayne. 100% again safety percentile. So these must have got to be gated communities, right, with private security or something. I can't imagine how else they would get a 100% rating. The houses per square mile, 3,150. Distance to the nearest cemetery, 6.18 miles. So maybe the kids aren't going to wrap up the evening with a walk down to the cemetery on that one. But they'll come away with some good candy. Next on the list, Atlanta. And you know what? A place having Halloween in a place like, and here's where I turn into the real estate geek. Some of the architecture in Atlanta has got to be freaking awesome in terms of, and being something like New Orleans. That'd be freaking awesome. Did New Orleans make this list? No. Crime. Absolute crime. Anyway, sorry. Atlanta, 30319 is the zip code. Historic Brookhaven. And of course, since it says historic Brookhaven, I'm guessing that means some pretty awesome old architecture, which is always awesome for Halloween. They have a safety percentile of 83% with 811 homes per square mile. But boy, I think you'll get a lot more bang for the buck per house just because of the architectural awesomeness. 3.75 miles to the nearest cemetery. Orlando, Florida, zip code 32814, Baldwin Park, a 99% safety percentile. 1,600 homes per square mile, 0.94 miles to the nearest cemetery. So you won't have to walk far in Orlando to go tell those spooky stories at the cemetery. Next on our list is San Diego, 92106, La Playa, 97% safety percentile. I mean, these are some super safe neighborhoods. You could just let your kids run wild. 1,285 houses per square mile, 2.76 miles distance to the closest cemetery. We're going to go ahead and cover the rest of our list in just a second, but right now we're going to take a quick break, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Are you ready to jump in and start your search for your first investment property? Maybe you've decided that it's time to own your own home, or maybe you're ready to sell your home and move on to something new. No matter what your goal is, the Rebel Broker can help. That's right, aside from hosting this show, I am also the owner, broker of Whitelaw & Sons Real Estate Services right here in Silicon Valley. With over 25 years experience serving Silicon Valley, Morgan Hill, San Martin, and Gilroy, I or one of my great agents can help you achieve your goals in real estate. So if you're ready to look into taking that next step towards achieving your real estate goals, point your browser at www.soldbyrobert.com. That's www.soldbyrobert.com and get in touch. Let me show you how I will earn your business and your respect. Again, that's www.soldbyrobert.com, or you can call me at 408-852-0525. California Bureau of Real Estate ID 00984-909. Welcome back, everyone. We are running down the list of the best trick-or-treating neighborhoods spread out across the country. We're going to hit what made this list from HomeUnion. We're going to talk about some of the trick-or-treating related stats, or at least what we're using for trick-or-treating related stats. And then we're going to run down what I think is probably one of the main guidelines that you can take and apply to your neighborhood. So let's say you don't have the gas money or the plane money to get to the nearest one of these communities that could spell a bonanza for your trick-or-treating this Monday night. We're going to come because I always like to take it to the next level, right? It's about cranking it up to 11. We take the data we get, we digest it a little bit, we chew it up, we compare it to other things, we take a look at it from different angles. That's what we're going to do here. So we're going to enhance that trick-or-treating experience in your neighborhood, or at least get you to the neighborhood where it's enhanced. We left off with San Diego. That neighborhood was La Playa, I believe, right? Isn't that where we left off? I think so. Sandy, well, maybe it was Orlando. I don't remember if we said anything about Orlando. So Orlando was 32814 Baldwin Park, 99% safety percentile, 1,600 houses per square mile, and a 0.94 distance to the nearest cemetery. San Diego was 92106. La Playa is the neighborhood, 97% safety rating, 1,862 homes per square mile, 7.23 mile distance to the nearest cemetery. Now, I know we didn't get any further than that. Next on our list is Charlotte, zip code 28207. The neighborhood's called Eastover, with a 97% safety percentile, with 1,285 homes per square mile. That's the big number for me, man. If I'm talking about trick-or-treating efficiency, it's going to be about the density, about how many homes I can hit per hour. The distance to the nearest cemetery is 2.76 miles. You know, how many people did that? How many people actually did the whole Halloween cemetery thing? I don't ever remember it being one of those things when it was me and my guy buddies as kids. But as soon as girls got into the equation, I suddenly seem to recall cemeteries getting into it. I'm guessing it was to try to get them scared, so there'd be that spontaneous I'm scared hug thing happening. Maybe. All right, we already talked about Charlotte. Los Angeles. This will sound familiar. The zip code's 90210. This community is Beverly Hills, with an 81% safety percentile. An 81% safety percentile in Beverly Hills. How the heck does Eastover, La Playa, Baldwin Park, all these others, every single one, all these others have beaten it except for Phoenix and San Francisco. Okay, anyway. 2,558 homes per square mile. Not a number I would have guessed, by the way, for Beverly Hills. I would have guessed a lot fewer homes per square mile just because those things tend to be so much larger in terms of the size of their lots. 2.77 miles to the nearest cemetery, but imagine the people you could visit at that cemetery. I think Elvis is buried there somewhere, right? Is that the Hollywood? Would that be the Hollywood Cemetery? Is that what it's called? I don't know. Sorry. Next on our list, St. Louis, 63105. The neighborhood's name is Clayton, with a 90% safety percentile, 2,229 homes per square mile, 1.95 miles to the nearest cemetery. Next on our list, Houston, 77098. The community name is Montrose. They have an 83% safety percentile. Houses per square mile, 5,023.88 miles to the nearest cemetery. And boy, having been in Houston, would it be hot this time of year? How hot is it in Houston at this time of year? So for Halloween, Houston is projected to have a high of 86 and a low of 70. And, depending on the kind of parent you are, you want to not have your kids out there when it's super dark. So I'm not sure when the sun goes down, probably between 5 and 7, right? So you're talking 80 in the 80s when they start trick-or-treating and in the mid to low 70s when they finish. I guess that could be reasonable. But they're talking about a humidity of 68% and a 20% chance of precipitation. This is going to take a lot of candy to make dealing with that worth it. I'm just saying. I just want to put that out there. All right, so that's Houston. Philadelphia, zip code 19066. Murrian Station is the name of the community. 98% safety percentile. 1,324 homes per square mile. And 1.54 miles to the nearest cemetery. Next, New York, zip code 11235, Manhattan Beach. 100% safety percentile, 5,184 houses per square mile, 1.79 miles distance to the closest cemetery. Again, I don't know how old the Manhattan Beach community is, but that seems like another place that would have some cool architecture that you could really make into a nice spooky Halloween experience. All right, next on our list, Minneapolis, zip code 55405, Lowry Hill, with what is the lowest safety percentile on our list at 48%. Houses per square mile, 3,406. Distance to the closest cemetery, 2.33. And then we're coming up here. We're closing up the top three. I may have actually read this backwards. We'll just consider this an unprioritized list. Tampa, zip code 33606, historic Hyde Park North is the community. 94% safety percentile. 3,941 houses per square mile. 1.77 miles distance to the nearest cemetery. And here's a place that's scary for a whole lot of reasons, not just Halloween. Washington, D.C., 20007, Burleith, Hillendale, 72% safety percentile, 3,697 houses per square mile, 0.33 miles to the closest cemetery. So you get the whole package deal right there. Much better package deal in San Francisco, though, if I'm reading these numbers right. Finally, what I think is number one on this list, or Boston was. I may have started with number one. Well, what are you going to do? Denver, with zip code 80206. Cherry Creek is the neighborhood. Safety percentile is 76%. Houses per square mile, 4,723. Distance to the nearest cemetery, 3.01. And I think that's a pretty awesome list. I tell you, it makes me want to go to San Francisco on Monday night just to, and the other part of it is San Francisco, and I'm sure these other communities have the same thing. But if you're looking for adult Halloween entertainment, San Francisco in the past, and granted, I have not been the party guy for an awfully long time. It was back in the 90s, San Francisco was awesome for Halloween parties and for New Year's and everything else. So I got to think San Francisco puts on one heck of a show when it comes to San Francisco, when it comes to a Halloween party. Now, one other thing to focus on here is one piece of data I didn't give you, and that is what the median home price is in each one of these areas. And as I look down this list with areas I'm familiar with, areas we've talked about, I have to think that one other major thing to take from this list is go to where the rich people are, baby. Go to where the multi-million-dollar houses are. Let me just run down the list here of these median prices in these various areas, in these various neighborhoods. In the Boston neighborhood of West Cambridge, $1.2 million. In Seattle, the Capitol Hill median is $1.1 million. San Francisco Pacific Heights, $3.95 million. Phoenix, the Ancala neighborhood, $1 million. Dallas in University Heights, $1.85 million. Chicago and the White Eagle Club, $500,000, which is the most reasonably priced neighborhood on this list. Miami, the village of Key Biscayne, $2.4 million. Atlanta, $1.35 million for the historic Brookhaven neighborhood. I actually had an article I came across about historic neighborhoods, buying older homes and historic homes. And we can have another show about that because I think that'd be fun. I think that'd be a great thing to do to bring new life into an old building, but help keep it with the flavor of when it was built. Anyway, Orlando in the Baldwin Park, $545,000. San Diego, La Playa neighborhood, $1.65 million. Charlotte in the Eastover neighborhood, $1.05 million. Los Angeles, Beverly Hills. I don't think anyone has to guess whether or not that is the top of the list. That's $4.4 million. So they're probably they probably hire people specifically to come in and hand out the candy at these particular homes. St. Louis in Clayton neighborhood, $700,000. Houston, Montrose, $550,000. Philadelphia in Marion Station, $750,000. In New York, Manhattan Beach, $1.15 million. Minneapolis and Lowry Hill, $600,000. Tampa, same thing. Historic Hyde Park North, $600,000. Washington, D.C., Burleith, Hillendale, $2.05 million. And Denver, Cherry Creek, $850,000. $100,000. So hopefully this is going to be a list that helps you out, helps you focus in. And so what can we take from this in terms of, well, I don't have the ability to go to any of these communities? Well, see if you can't figure out how many houses per square mile there are in certain places. And go for the posh neighborhood. Apparently that is a big influencer here, I think, in the quality of what you're going to get in terms of what your Halloween experience is going to be. But you know what? The key point here is have fun, get out there with your kids, enjoy the evening. It's a great community builder, and it's a great way to get the kids out there and separating their noses from their digital devices. So I hope you're all taking advantage of that on Monday. In terms of just a few other little tidbits I wanted to cover today, and why I'm tacking this on to the end of a show about where to trick or treat. Credit card, I think basically because it dovetails into some of the creepy news, the scary news that we've talked about over the last week in some feeble attempt to try to keep the theme going here for Halloween. Credit card delinquencies creep up to the highest level since 2012 as subprime issuance soars. And this is subprime issuance of credit cards. Now this comes to us, I'm reading this from Zero Hedge, but it's actually extrapolating this data from the Wall Street Journal. So I'll be linking to that in the show notes if you want to check this out. Quote, credit card lending to subprime borrowers is starting to backfire. Missed payments on credit cards that lenders issued recently are higher than on older cards, according to new data from the credit bureau TransUnion. Nearly 3% of outstanding balances on credit cards issued in 2015 were at least 90 days behind on payments 6 months after they were originated. That compares with 2.2% for cards that were given out in 2014 and 1.5% for cards in 2013. The poorer performance on newer cards pushed up the 90-day or more delinquency rate for all credit cards to the 1.53% on average nationwide in the third quarter. That's the highest level since 2012. So what does this tell us? I think that there are some things you might be able to extrapolate from this. And one of those things is, A, people are a little bit hungry for more credit. They're hungry for more ways to get their hands on some cash to buy stuff. And the reason why this is sort of a last ditch effort, I think, on the part of folks to get access to credit. So things are tighter, things are tougher. So folks are turning to these ridiculously high interest rate credit cards, and unfortunately are using them to try to cover whatever expenses are that they're trying to cover. And I think and as that has gotten worse, I think that's why we're seeing this year to year greater number of new issuances that have resulted in defaults, as some folks turn to those as sort of the credit of last resort. Let's see. In addition to the pure lunacy of using unsecured low, no-doc microloans as collateral for a CDO. Now, CDO stands for collateralized debt obligation. Let's see. We pointed out that the very nature of P2P loans meant that the borrower creditworthiness likely deteriorated as soon as the loans were issued. The credit deterioration stemmed from the fact that many borrowers were simply using P2P loan proceeds to repay higher interest credit card debt. That said, after paying off that credit card, many people simply proceeded to max it out again, leaving them with twice the original amount of debt. So we were talking a bit before about subprime lending. We were talking a bit about the odd situation we find ourselves in where we're facilitating folks being able to take on more debt than they may be able to manage. And this is another element in their lives where it's being facilitated, where these cards are being issued to subprime borrowers. The recent increase in subprime lending is one of the big contributors. Lenders ramped up subprime card lending in 2014 and have been doling out more of these cards recently. They issued just over 20 million credit cards to subprime borrowers in 2015, up 20% from 2014 and up 56% from 2013, according to Equifax. Separately, missed payments in states with large oil or energy sectors continue to worsen. The share of card balances that were at least 90 days past due increased 12% in Oklahoma, 10% in Texas, and 20% in Wyoming in the third quarter from a year prior. The Wall Street Journal reported in April that rising unemployment in the energy sector was pushing up delinquencies on credit cards and auto loans, raising the risk of new losses for banks. So why do we mention this? Well, we've talked about just debt as a dangerous thing, particularly when someone's overburdened with debt. And when bad things happen, if you've got more than, let's say we take someone who's in this situation where they're getting one of these loans we talk about that uses things that don't really measure their credit worthiness to establish their credit worthiness, lends them based on just having them put down 0, 1, 2, 3%. But then they're also burdened with this other sort of debt. That just makes their economic situation much more tenuous. It makes it far more likely that if something really bad happens, we're likely to see the same sort of default activities that we saw last time around, ranging from simply walking away from loans to, if possible, purchasing another property and then walking away from that first loan. Just sort of another brick in the wall of us trying to get what I think is a broad view of what the makeup is out there, what's going on with the large number of folks out there that are managing their debt, and what sort of an effect that's likely to have on the economy in general if we do start to see things turn down a little bit. All right, folks, I hope that you are ready to have a fantastic Halloween, and I hope some of the information today might just help you push it over the edge into the ultimate Halloween experience for you and your family. I do appreciate you being willing to spend your valuable time with me at least 5 times a week. Thanks again for listening. I'll talk to you all next time.